He kōna ipurangi tēnei nā te reo irirangi o Aotearoa.
For me, when I don't try, but I have the intent, it just flows and smooth and it just feels like when I'm nailing my timing and nailing my rhythm, then I know it's going to go a long way, even before it's left my hand.
Hi, I'm Jesse Mulligan, and this is Sports History NZ. Shot putter Tom Walsh, a former builder from Timaru, has won all sorts of championships and medals and was once the #1 ranked man in his sport. He gave me some incredible insights into being an athlete at that level and what it's like to compete against and beat the best in the world. When we chatted, he'd just returned to New Zealand, and I asked him how long since he'd been back.
I had a decent trip, all right. I go away every year about May, and then I usually get back around mid-September, October. So I pretty much miss the cold months, which is not too bad.
Yeah, nice to be home.
Yeah, it is great to be home. It's always a nice feeling. You live in the right place when you get back and your feet on the ground in New Zealand, and you're like, this is like no other place in the world, and this feels like home. So, it's good to be home and just trying to tick off the lists of jobs that my fiance has written up for me over the winter months.
The dreaded list of jobs, yeah.
Yeah.
Was the games, the Commonwealth Games gold, was that the highlight of your season this year?
Yes, I think it was for sure. As I said in that interview that you guys just played, I went there to do one simple job, and that was to win. And I was really happy with my performance, considering 2 weeks earlier we had world champs, and I didn't quite throw as well as what I would like to have there, and things like that. So to turn my performance around in that 2-week window with a lot of help from my my coach and my sports psych, was really good, because I could have gone to Com Games and had a negative mindset, and it all could have gone the wrong way, which it didn't.
Are you more competing against the other competitors or competing against yourself when you step up at a big event like that?
I think it's a bit of both. Athletics is one of those weird ones where, like at the end of the day, yes, you are competing against yourself, but if there's energy in the competition from the crowd, from the athletes, it does add to it. So there definitely is a combiner of you trying to throw as far as you're capable of throwing on that day, because some days it might be, half a metre under your PB, but other days it could be around that PB, and then you're also trying to beat the other guys who are there too. So it's an interesting one.
What goes right when it goes right?
What goes right? Oh, look, it's like anything in sport. When you're not trying, it usually gets better. And for me, when I don't try, but I have the intent, and I know we're playing with words here already, but it just flows and smooth, and you have so much. Oh, I have so much time on the shot, and it just feels like my throw's over in less than half a second. But when I'm nailing my timing and nailing my rhythm, it feels like I've got 2 or 3 seconds on the shot in the circle, and I know it's going to go a long way even before it's left my hand.
How exciting! I'm sort of jumping all around this interview. Is your personal best still in front of you, do you think?
Oh, absolutely. I probably gave myself about a 7 out of 10 for the season. I'm not completely happy with it. So I know physically that I was in the best shape of my life, if you look at the gym numbers and so forth like that. But I just didn't figure out how to get into the shot. So that's technically, but also mentally, I was early season. I was a lot of the stuff looking at the downside of things rather than the upside. And just a wee change like that, which we managed to make between Commonwealth Games, World Champs and Commonwealth Games, can change dramatically, as I'm sure a lot of your listeners. Even a day-to-day thing, like it can change your day-to-day life really, really fast by being more of an optimist than a pessimist. And it's easy to say, but it's a really hard thing to do in reality.
Yeah. So can you explain to us how much is mental and how much is physical?
Look, it's an old cliche. When you get to the top, it's all mental, right? Like
right.
there's probably another 25 guys in the world who are physically in better shape than me, physically stronger, faster, whatever it is.
Wow.
But one thing I do well, usually, is get myself into a headspace where I believe in myself. I'm confident about what I'm doing, that it's the right things, and my outlook's more positive. And that's a big difference for me. Like I feel like my mental game most of the time is above anyone else's, and that's what allows me to access more of my capability than what a lot of people do.
Do you mess with the other competitors, try and get in their head?
Oh, there is for sure a little bit of smack talk out there.
Really?
But the guys know that I like to smack talk, so they don't talk to me because of that direct smack. So they've figured me out already, which is a bit of a bugger.
So they avoid you?
Yeah, they do. They kind of go into their own wee tunnels, their own wee minds, and kind of try not to look at me because they know that I might say something cheeky or something like that.
That's fascinating. What about, and we might get to Jacko Gill, but what about the two of you? What's your relationship?
Oh, Jacko and I, look, we're definitely different people, Jacko and myself. But Jacko and me get on really well, but we're just not the same guys. It's not. Jacko's not the type of guy that I'd go and have a beer with. But if we want to have a really good training session and we're away together, I'll text him and say, "Hey mate, do you want to we head out together and put something on the line and we'll do stuff like that." So look, he is, and he's one of the major reasons why I'm the thrower I am today. I think, without the jealousy I had for his success early on, I probably wouldn't be throwing a shot. Because I was extremely jealous of the praise he was getting and how far he was throwing, back when we were younger. And that was a huge driving force for me to prove all these people wrong that thought Jacko was the guy.
Love that. And you guys got gold, silver at the games.
Mm-hmm.
Was there a moment when you were worried he'd get the gold?
Well, I think... no, there wasn't. If the same situation occurred 2 weeks earlier, my mindset might have been that way, for sure. But definitely, the huge change we made, as I talked about earlier, the positive side of things. I felt just at home. I felt that I had an answer for anything that was thrown at me, I just had confidence that I had the ability to throw whatever it needed to be to win. And that was a really nice position to be in because, we've all been through a lot over the last few years and the same with sport. And, it was just nice to have that confidence, that belief in myself again. Because
is it right?
Been a while.
Is it correct your final throw was the biggest one, 22.26?
I think something like that, yes. Yeah.
Yeah. And why was your last... do I say throw? I don't do it. Yeah,
throw,
I do.
No,
why was your last throw the longest one?
Why? Very good question. Look, there was probably a little bit more freedom there because I knew I'd won it by then. But in everything just lined up on that last one a little bit better than the rest of the throws. Like I had a really good series of throws that were all around between 2150-ish, I think, and 22 meters. So there isn't a lot of difference between those throws and a 26 throw that I threw in the last round, and probably just a little bit of freedom. And also that I knew that I could just have a real go at it, and it didn't really matter what happened.
How heavy is the shot?
It is 7.26 kg, so that's 16 pound. So she's so when you got to take two around the world with you, you don't have much. You don't have many clothes with you.
I should have known that, but I just assumed you'd all just use the ones that were there when you showed up. You're throwing your own shot.
Yeah, you do. It's you get used to your own ball, and it's kind of yours, and you have good memories with it, and and you always think yours is the best, and even though everyone else is essentially exactly the same, and you're all throwing about the same brand and stuff. But and you need to train with it, and some places don't have great throws equipment, some places do. So you just try and manage the stuff you can manage while you're away, and that's one of the things that you can manage is taking your own shot with you.
Yeah. Do they inspect it before you throw it?
Yeah, they sure do. There's certain parameters, so it has to obviously be over 7.26 kgs, and it also has to be within certain diameters. So the one I throw is a 129 millimeter diameter, and the maximum is a 130. So we always give the guys who throw like a 125 or a 120 shot, a bit of stick around. Well, one day, boys, you'll move up to the real man's one. The big one. So they always get a bit toey around that.
Ever lost or misplaced your shot?
Oh, it's a hard thing to lose or misplace.
Yeah.
I've actually had one stolen from me. One of the guys stole it at like collection after the competition. They took my shot instead of theirs, and I think it was because theirs was underweight and mine was in weight. So I was a little bit, pissed off about that. But
do you know who did it?
I do know who did it. So I definitely have hit him up since around it, and he pleads ignorance, but I'm very unsure about that.
What general part of the world is he from?
European.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Classic.
Yeah. So you can't trust those Europeans.
We should also mention that you're a flag bearer. That was a secret that you had to keep for a while at the games.
Yeah, it was. It was. I didn't know how cool it was going to be, and until I did it, and it's not really something that personally I ever thought about doing. And to be honest, usually I don't go to. I'm not even in the village at the opening ceremony. So for Birmingham to work and for us to be just down the road in Cardiff with the athletics team and it just be a nice wee trip up. It was just a really cool experience to be out there, leading the team with Joe Elking, and it was just awesome. Yeah,
it was our most successful Commonwealth Games yet. Did it feel that way? Was there an atmosphere in the team over at the games?
Yeah, I'd like to think that. It was because me and Joe, we put a good foot forward to start with, and the rest of them followed. But no, it was a good atmosphere in the team, and I think the English they know how to support stuff. And I can only really speak from the athletic side of things and the fans in the stadium there. But that was probably one of the best crowds I've competed in front of. In terms of just really being in tune with the competition itself and not just the track events, because sometimes field events can get lost, but they were really in tune with us throwing discus and the decathlon finishing up and the triple jump, and it was really well managed, and the energy in the stadium was fantastic, and I can't help but think that helped a lot of the athletes who haven't really been able to compete in front of athletes much previous to a year and a half.
How noisy is it in the stadium, Tom?
Well, we're pretty lucky. We get to do these street competitions where they literally move the shot put circle and the landing area into a street, and they're probably the noisiest ones. They generally let you choose your song, and the crowd standing 2 or 3 meters away from the side of the circle, and they're pretty fun, and definitely the crowd gets into it, which is fun.
You're 30 years old. When does a shot put a peak?
Yeah, look, I think the good thing about how training's moved along in the last 20, 30 years is that you don't really necessarily have like a peak age. You have a peak window, and I'd say anything between like 27 and 33 would be your peak window. If your body can stay healthy, that's obviously always a big one. And then there's no reason why physically you can't keep getting better until like 33, 34 kind of thing. So, and then it's just about, as I talked about earlier, figuring out a way of, or getting that horsepower, into that ball. And so I definitely feel like my best years are still ahead of me.
Great.
For sure.
Your personal best in competition is 22.90. Have you thrown further than that in practice?
No, I haven't. And look, that's one of the things that I I get a little bit annoyed about, is when all these you guys come out and say, well, I've thrown this in training and the PB's half a metre under that. I go, well, mate, that's good. That's really good for me, because it means you can't compete. And, they get a little bit annoyed about it. And, well, tell me it's not true, because I'm definitely on the right side of that, which is good.
You'd prefer to be doing your best throws in competition?
Well, that's what it's there for, right?
Yeah.
Like I'll tell people, like, I really don't care what you're throwing in training, because, look, it doesn't actually matter. What matters is how far you can throw in this competition, more than anything else, yeah.
Do you have a target distance?
Yeah, look, I think men's shot put games moved dramatically from when I first started. You might have 2 guys over 22 each year, where now you might have 8, 9, 10 guys over 22 each year, and some of the guys now are throwing at every comp or every second comp. So the goalposts have moved, and definitely with my goals moved too. So our team has a thing around the 20. What's it going to take for Tom to throw 24 meters? And so that's what
24.
we look at. Yeah, 24 meters. Yeah. Yeah. So,
but that's over a metre higher than your personal best. Surely it'd be 23 first of all, and then go to 24.
No, you got to set those, big goals, right? And work back from it. Because there's, so I think I'm capable of throwing 24 meters, and then we just work back, like, physically, where am I now? Where do I need to get to get over that line? And that's kind of, how we work on things we need to work on.
Fantastic.
Which is good.
What's been your personal career highlight so far?
Personal career highlight so far would probably be London World Champs in 2017. I managed to win that, which is awesome. But the circumstances that went around it were pretty cool. Well, not at the time they weren't, but looking back now about how I went through them. So the day before the qualifying, I tore my adductor. So anyone who does a rotational sport or runs, let alone adductors, are pretty important to doing those activities. And so I had a 7-centimetre tear in my adductor, so it wasn't a small tear. And so I didn't know even if I could compete in the qualifying. And I managed to, find a way through qualifying and get into the final. And I kind of just said to myself, and this was 48 hours later after doing it, it's like, look, you may only have one throw, so you're gonna just have to roll the dice. And managing somehow to, compete, do all 6 throws, and lead from throw 1 to throw 6 and throw my furthest throw again in the last round, was amazing. And then, my parents were there, my fiance was there, my first ever coach was there. It was just a pretty special moment. And then, adrenaline's a funny thing, because, about 3 hours after the competition, I couldn't walk because my adductor was that sore, and I'd injured it even more. But again, I could have quite easily looked at the negative side of that, but I managed to stay positive and go, look, I'm going to roll the dice and just see what happens. Something cool could happen here, and it managed to come through.
Amazing. If someone who was competing against you wanted to use illegal drugs in order to get better, would they be able to, or are the systems so secure that there'd be no way to do it?
I'm surprised it took us 20 minutes to get to this question. I've
asked it very carefully.
Yeah, no, you have. Look, completely. There's always a way. I think what we do here in New Zealand, our drug enforcement agency is very good. Anti-drug enforcement agency, not the drug enforcement agency. They, for example, I've got I'm on Whereabouts, and so for Whereabouts, I've got to log into this app, and each day I have to say an address where I will be for 1 hour. So usually I put that at my home address between 5:30 and 6:30 in the morning, because I'm either asleep or I'm just up, so I can guarantee I'm here. So if I miss one, it's not a failed test, but it's you kind of get a slap on the wrist. You kind of get told, what are you doing? And you can miss 2 within a year, but if you miss 3, then that's a failed test. So, and they enforce that very rigorously here in New Zealand. It's not to the same degree in other countries.
Right.
A lot of countries do it very well, but some of the third world countries and so forth, for obvious reasons, it's very low on their priority. So it is capable of someone taking drugs, illegal drugs, to perform better. But the way I look at it is I feel like I can beat anyone whether they're taking drugs or not. And if you think you need to take drugs to beat me, then I've already beaten you.
I love that. Yeah. You got bronze in the 2020 Olympics. I'm just having a look. There are 2 US guys ahead of you. Presumably they've got a pretty good anti-doping system in the US. Were you happy with bronze? Of course you should have been. It's a huge achievement, but I'm keen to hear your thoughts.
I think, again, touching on the tough year and a half, 2 years that everyone has had, and for me, a huge reason why I do the sport is the social side of it, whether it's, having dinner with the guys and talking a little bit of, smack here and there, and having food with them afterwards, or a beer or whatever, and COVID took away all that and took away your, you talk like getting the crowd involved, because there was no crowd and so forth.
Yeah.
So, for me to come away with, a lot of with a bronze medal after, that year and a half, 2 years of, year and a half then of 2 years of uncertainty was a huge achievement on my part. And for sure, look, I was in better shape than that. Could I have thrown better than that? Yes. Should I have thrown better than that? Possibly, but it could have gone a lot worse too. So I'm still not finished. I have a few things missing from my cabinet. And an Olympic gold is definitely one of those. So and I feel like I've got two more good cracks at having a chance at winning one. So
wow.
Paris
2024, hey?
Indeed. And then, LA 2028, which will be pretty fun too.
Okay, got some questions from listeners. What do you eat in a typical day? Personal question.
I'd eat about 5,000 calories, which is the average intake for a male, I think, is 2,000, or should be around 2,000, and the average intake for a female should be about 1,500. So it's more than double what you guys should be eating. And people go, well, that sounds wonderful, but sometimes I've got to eat when I'm not hungry, and that's 5 to 6 meals a day, about 2.5, 3 hours apart. So it's pretty full on. But I also need to be about 135 kgs, which the average person walking down the street isn't.
Yeah. How do you get your income, Tom, to pay for all this?
Very good question. I'm very lucky to be supported by High Performance Sport, which is the taxpayers in New Zealand, which is very, very nice. And so they help. They pay me a performance salary so that I get paid on how well I do at major championships.
Right.
And then I also have some funding going towards my campaign. So, look, it cost me probably about, it used to be about 70K a year to do what I do, but now it costs me probably about 85 because, as I'm sure everyone's aware, flights have gone up, accommodation's gone up, fuel's gone up. So, and they cover a percentage of that, not all of it. And then I make some prize money, some appearance fees through the Diamond Leagues and World Challenges, and obviously other sponsors as well. So,
how much do you get if you win the World Champs?
I think it's just gone up to 70,000 US.
Oh yeah.
So it's a solid payday for sure. But it's once every 2 years. So you've got to have a few other paychecks between comps for sure.
What's next for you, Tom?
I've got another 2 or 3 weeks off training, which is really nice. I'm really enjoying just chilling out and playing some golf and doing some building, and then get into my off-season training through November, December, January, and then maybe a few comps here in New Zealand and overseas through March, and World Champs in Budapest in August next year. So, yeah.
Fantastic. Here's a question. Someone wants to know, if it wasn't shot put, what would have been the sport that you are focused on?
Well, I always fancied myself as a bit of a cricketer. I grew up playing a lot of cricket, and I played Prem cricket in Christchurch until I was 21. Whether I ever made it or not would be another story. But I still love cricket. I still love watching them play, and there's a huge. It was just an amazing thing to do last year playing the Black Clash. That was pretty fun.
Bowler or a batsman?
I would say an all-rounder, but most of the guys would say that I'm a bowler.
Mind you, if you connected all right with the bat, it'd go a decent distance, I imagine, with 135 kilos behind it.
It sure would, yeah.
Hey, real pleasure to meet you and spend some time talking to you, Tom. Thanks so much. Thanks for all the excitement that you've provided us over the years, and we're really excited to see what the next few years will hold for you.
Hey, thanks for having me on.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Sports History NZ, and special thanks to Tom Walsh for being my guest. Sports History NZ was produced by Melita Tull, Ayana Papahelian, Sally Ward and Sam Hollis. The podcast was put together by Justin Gregory. Tim Watkin is RNZ's executive producer of podcast and series. And there are plenty more amazing stories just like this one from our sporting past for you to follow and listen to. You can find them at Apple Podcasts, iHeart, Spotify, or wherever you found this podcast.